Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with the Green Scorpion. We got his latest countdown now. We got the top 10 video game water levels. So, hope you guys don't have any bathyphobia, which, by the way, the fear of the deep ocean. Trust me, look it up. Or, you know what I mean, right? Deep waters. So, yeah, this is gonna be sucking for anyone who has that level of fear. So, good luck. Anyway, so, hope you're ready. Hope you're ready to swim, so let's check out these water levels. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's check it out. That's the best I got.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go. Can't help but do it. No. Here we go. Showtime.
Life got you down? Tired of the daily grind? Need a break from the emotionally heavy drama? Then why not get away on a refreshing vacation to scenic video game water levels? No, wait, hang on a second.
Oh, too late. Yeah, that's beach. Great Bay Temple. Eesh.
Hello everyone, the Green Scorpion here, and yeah, water levels don't exactly inspire confidence from most people, given their history. Along with your
It
lava
depends.
worlds,
If they're
ice
above water, I
worlds,
think they'll be
desert
fine.
worlds, and so
Below,
on,
oh
most
boy.
video games aiming for diverse biomes are going to have some sort of aquatic area. And since the mid-80s, these levels have carried a bit of a stigma. Not without reason, mind you. Water can be quite difficult to traverse in a game that's otherwise about movement on land or in the
Hi,
air.
Sonic.
For one thing, most characters need to breathe. So unless they have gills, tanks, or impressive lung control, you're probably going to be timed on how long you can stay under there. The added viscosity of the atmosphere can slow down your movement in a lot of shooters and
Jack and
platformers,
Daxter.
and you're often fighting enemies who are adapted to this kind of environment, and they'll swim circles around you. And if it's not your movement that's dampened, it may be some of your other abilities.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for Kirby to
like
suck up
Kirby.
enemies if he's going to get a mouthful of H2O.
Uh-huh.
Well, okay, that was one time. Despite their wishy-washy
Plus, doesn't it have, like,
reputation,
the water
however,
ability now?
I've always been a bit of a water level apologist. I think these
Apologist?
wetlands
That's
have
a
a
thing?
lot to offer in
Hey,
terms of
Shantae.
gameplay if properly designed. I said it in my original list 11 years ago, and I'm gonna say it again today with this remastered, rehydrated countdown.
There you go.
My only one rule is that I'm only considering levels where you actually go into the water. Technically, you could make a water level where you're above the surface, but I'm more interested to see
don't think
how
that
video
counts.
games can tackle the challenge of designing interesting water mechanics. I want them to be memorable parts of the game, not in spite of being a water level, but because they are one. Oh, and if the entire game is a water level, I won't be considering it here. So quick honorable mention to Abzu, Aquaria, Subnautica, Soma, and Echo the Dolphin.
Alright, Selma.
Okay, actually scratch that last one. I'm the Green Scorpion, and it's time to dive right in. These are the top 10 video game water levels.
Well, get some rebreathers for when we need it.
At the
Let's
bare
first up-
minimum, I want to feature levels that don't make the players say, "Oh great, this level," every time they replay the game. But for number 10, that might be what you're saying at first. Metroid has a particular way of handling water. Most games in the series have a flooded area of some
where
kind,
are we going?
and while the power suit thankfully has its own air supply, it's not what you'd call amphibious. Samus sinks like a
true.
rock with massively decreased jump heights,
yeah, you gotta get
cutting
the
you off
gravity
from higher
suit in
areas,
Dread
and you'll just
to
have
be
to
able
go
to
with the
work.
flow for a while. But eventually, you'll get the
What was I gonna
gravity
do?
suit upgrade, which
There
is...
you go.
Hydrodynamically designed.
And
Thank
suddenly
you.
you're cutting through the depths like they're not even there. Having to slog through the tides at first makes it all the more satisfying once you've literally found your sea legs. And now that I think about it, it's pretty similar to Metroid's other tradition of making you sprint through painfully hot chambers before you get the insulated Varia suit. The Hell Run, as fans like to call it. I guess this would be the Hell
it test-
Swim?
I don't know.
So with that
Yes.
clarified, all that
So,
leaves is
which
to decide
Metroid
which
level?
Metroid game has the best ratio of good to suck. Meridia from Super Metroid is iconic, but nothing special. Berenia from Dread is mostly solid, but I cannot forgive that Emmy section. And I know the sunken frigate from Prime is popular, though
Trust me, yeah.
personally I find it a bit too
Not a
hard
fan
to
of the
see.
enemies myself.
Eventually, I decided on Sector 4 from Metroid Fusion. As a wing of a research space station designed to house exotic aquatic specimens, there's a lot to clean up when the X-Parasites break open the tanks and start possessing all the creatures. Chief among them is Ceres, a giant serpent you'll be hunting down on your first visit here. But even more concerning, Ceres busted open the power consoles and now most of the water is electrified. So you spend your first trip to the water level trying to stay out of the water. That's actually a nice twist.
Considering you don't
Once
have
the generator is turned off and Ceres pays for the damages with its life, you can collect the speed booster and leave Sector 4 behind. It's a short but overall harmless prelude, but I love how it pays off. You return later to explore the lower sections now that the water is safe to enter, revealing a lovely coral reef below. And there's no second boss here unlike most of the other sectors, instead just a wide area for you to explore, which is made all the easier once you get the gravity suit. It's a really neat juxtaposition. At first you can't even touch the water without receiving a deadly shock. Now you've made the water your own, escaping the sterile lab above for the expanse below. By minimizing the amount of time in the water pre-gravity suit, Fusion finds a nice balance where you still appreciate the abilities it gives you without having to spend too much time on the Hell Swim. In Sector 4 anyway. Most of the Hell Swim in this game actually occurs in Sector 5, the Ice Sector. How about that? But it makes Sector 4 a perfect microcosm of the Metroid formula. Get new stuff to go to new places so you can get more new stuff. Just in a fish tank. It's a model ship in a bottle demonstrating why I find Metroid games so rewarding. Also, bonus points to Sector 4 for housing that cool sequence break Easter egg with the Shine Spark. I always found that cool.
There you go. Like I said, I really gotta find a way to play more Metroid games.
In my original water levels countdown, I gave a spot to Title Surge from Vector Man, which is a level I still love from a game that I still think needs a comeback. But this time around, I gravitated towards another soggy segment from an unsung Sega saga. Planet Undertow from Ristar. Now, I didn't grow up with Ristar. This game first came to my attention on the Wii Virtual Console. But may I just say that this game is delightful. In a way, Ristar is the ancestor to Sonic. At one point in his development, it was thought to make Sonic a rabbit who would be able to attack by grabbing enemies with his ears and slingshotting into them. And while the Blue Blur went in a spikier direction, Ristar took up that same mode of attack with his stretchy arms. Also like the Sonic games, Ristar's levels are each broken up into 2 acts, followed by a boss fight. So you have 2 verdant green levels to get used to Ristar's grappling mechanics before you're thrown into the deep end for World 2. I use the term deep end literally here because unlike the Blue Blur, Ristar is actually very comfortable underwater. He's a regular starfish. Sonic's early water levels kept the same jumping controls, just with a sea snail's pace and a time limit to hold his breath. But Ristar's buoyant body allows him to swim, while his grabby smashy attack style remains perfectly intact. I actually find Ristar easier to control when he's swimming, especially because his main method of attack translates seamlessly underwater. And Ristar can either kick through the depths slowly, or take large breaststrokes to blast forward, so you have a lot of control over your speed and can hold your breath indefinitely. I'm actually not sure if Ristar needs to breathe at all. He is a star from the vacuum of space after all. Act 1 of Undertow is in the open ocean with rising and lowering tides, providing a nice big area to get used to the swimming controls, while Act 2 takes you into some sunken ruins where things are a bit more cramped. As you delve from room to room, you'll be clearing waves of enemies, taking down these big Nautilus guys, and scampering to safety rails in these tight corridors before the water pressure blasts you backwards. You finish with a showdown against this hammerhead shark, and after each hit, he unplugs a cork that causes the water level to drop, giving you less and less room to dodge. It seems daunting at first, but like a game of dodgeball, you just have to muster your courage and catch his attacks before he can take you out. And the way he bounces around when you hit him is really satisfying. Top it all off with some really chill music, which balances a relaxed pace with just a little sense of danger and a smidge of alien science vibes. I dig it. I dig this whole game, as a matter of fact. Let's get some more Ristar, Sega. That cameo in Racing Transform was alright, but for Pete's sake, at least let the guy drive.
To each your own. Plus, I think Sega could use a chance to see if any other
With the new generation just beginning, I of course considered Pokemon when amassing this list, and the mainline games have plenty of ocean routes and nautical caves to explore, but aside from some good music and visuals, they aren't exactly the most fun to explore. I love water Pokemon, they just don't have the most exciting biomes. Unless we take a trip into
Oh,
the world of
snap.
Pokemon spin-offs. In Pokemon Snap, your vehicle, the 01, could transform from a rover to a boat. Heck, it was even capable of space travel. But it always surprised me that there was no submersible option. I mean, there were so many water Pokemon to see, even in the first gen. Then, in 2021, we finally got the long-awaited sequel, New Pokemon Snap. A name that will be very confusing if they ever decide to make a third one. And my delving dreams came true with the archipelago of Maricopia. This might be stretching the term level, as Maricopia actually hosts 3 main courses, but I think they all blend together into a charming aqua-themed area. Blushing Beach is half land-based, but you still get a good look at the water and a righteous view of an Alolan Raichu hanging 10. Then there's Maricopia Reef, which guides you over the waves with a ton of memorable moments. Getting blocked by a school of Wailord, listening to Primarina's siren song, this Machamp who'll flex his beach bod for you. This is where I learned that Blastoise can freaking fly. You can endear yourself to a school of Lapras and even catch a glimpse of the Sea Prince himself, Manaphy. And each of these levels has 2 variants for different times of day. But if I had to pick one of these courses, it would be the Lentil Seafloor, where you endless ocean your way into the depths. Since this game is essentially a rail shooter, you don't have to worry about swimming controls. And it's for this reason I was hesitant to include other rail shooter levels on this list, such as the Undersea Tunnel in Sin and Punishment. I mean, this level's awesome with its array of ridiculous fish enemies, but it doesn't really feel any different than any other level in the game. By merit, that movement isn't affected by terrain at all in this game. New Pokemon Snap would be the same, but given that Pokemon are now surrounding you from above and below in a way that they normally wouldn't, it still manages to highlight its setting. Plus, the Lentil Seafloor is one of the most complex levels for presenting multiple paths and secrets, which for me just communicates how endlessly deep the ocean is. You're given a lot of choices on any given run. Will you trudge through the kelp with this Cradilly, or will you use an Illumina Orb to help this Clowitz or blast open a new tunnel? Are you gonna ride with this school to the surface, or did you manage to help the Lantern who will show you the way to the darker depths? From there, do you proceed ahead where the Golisopod creepily stalk the ruins, or can you find the hidden tunnel where Lugia itself sleeps? And even if you do find Lugia, how are you gonna manipulate it to get the best shot? There are a lot of fish Pokemon in the sea, and you'll want to see every single one of them, no matter how many runs it takes. Because more so than any other level in the game, there's so much detail and personality down here. Like the Finian and Lovedisk hiding for dear life from the Pelipper above, or this Octillery telling off a Seviper that encroached on its territory. Around this time in the mainline games, random encounters were going out the door, so it was common to see wild Pokemon in the overworld, but most of them are kind of just standing there doing not much of anything. Coming off of that, New Pokemon Snap gave me something that I didn't know I needed. A depiction of Pokemon existing as an actual ecosystem. Different species interacting with each other in natural yet wholly unexpected ways, and Maricopia has some of the best examples of that. Rounding off Maricopia is one of my favorite Lumina encounters in the game, Wishy-Washy. This was a cool Gen 7 Pokemon with an interesting gimmick. Tiny sardines that swim together to effectively form a monster fish, but this ability didn't have much nautical mileage in battle. This encounter, on the other hand, where you need to hit the individuals with orbs first to coax them into forming together for the big picture, this showcases Wishy-Washy in a way that the turn-based RPGs just can't. I'm glad this Leviathan finally got its chance to shine. I mean, literally, it glows in the dark. For all its beauty, mystery, and discovery, Maricopia might be my top fictional vacation spot now. Except there aren't really any people here, and honestly, I'd probably just end up as Sharpedo food.
Yeah. I mean, you ain't wrong. Pretty sure those are reserves, so pretty sure no one's gonna be around to actually see all that, unless you're either a researcher or on tour, so... Yeah, let's be honest. The Pokemon probably need a little space so they can just be themselves, you know? I think we can all agree on that front. Anyway, moving along. Let's see where's next. Where to next?
This was going to come up eventually, so I'm just gonna nip it in the bud.
Good.
The Water Temple from Ocarina of Time? Not that bad.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I know. This is the poster
Prime.
child for why water levels suck, and yeah, it's not exactly fun, but besides an obscure way to softlock the game, it's pretty manageable. In fact,
Really?
the 3DS version fixing the softlock problem and making the iron boots a bona fide weapon on the bottom screen makes this dungeon, dare I say, decent.
Playable?
Still, Ocarina of Time was for many an introduction into the Zelda series, and this taught us to be very wary of water-based dungeons moving forward. Personally, I find the Great Bay Temple to be far worse, even with the awesome swim controls for Zora Link. And I actually kind of like the Lakebed Temple from Twilight Princess.
But I'm guessing
who
that's
would've
not our
guessed
number
that Zelda
7?
would eventually have a water dungeon that is not
What?
only good by popular opinion,
Breath of the Wild.
but arguably the best dungeon in the game. You know it, you love it, it's the Ancient Cistern from Skyward Sword. It's worth
I have
noting
that
that
game
this
on
dungeon
HD
is
and
preceded by a
Switch.
twist
Try
on a
that.
water level, as Faron Woods is flooded and you need to dive for magical tadpoles that can help you drain it again. Some fans complain about Skyward Sword's backtracking in older areas, but like, how can you call this backtracking? The topography here is completely different, and it's a clever way of incorporating a big lake area without overstaying its welcome. And the water dragon scale makes Link's swimming pretty darn smooth. I was enjoying this. But once we get to the Cistern, jaws drop. This place is gorgeous, like hopping through a Zen garden. This being a
this does
cistern,
look
your
pretty-
goal is to control the flow of water and eventually cause the statue to rise to the final chamber at the top. At first your paths are limited by which lily pads are flat side up and where you can freely swim to, but after the mini-boss you get a whip, which is basically the key to everything around here. Now you can flip the lily pads yourself and swing across these poles in the rafters to get to the remaining switches. Wow, what a useful item! I can't wait to see it get regular use in the rest of the game!
Yeah, unfortunately, no. Hi, Josh.
This dungeon feels like
Thanks.
spring cleaning, slowly draining all that pesky water that in turn helps you reach higher areas from the statue. Rather than the back and forth of most water level altering puzzles in games, this has a singular direction that makes progression much more satisfying, which is why I would rank this as one of the greatest water levels of all time, if it
not-
were just a water level. Yeah, no skirting around this one. Let's talk about the other less aqueous side of the cistern, waiting below the surface. Occasionally you'll have to drop into the basement area, which looks like a different level entirely. A haunted hovel of purple miasma with shambling bokoblin zombies. What's the deal with this place? Well, if you watched any other YouTuber cover this, you've already heard the explanation, but humor me. The Ancient Cistern's Hindu-Buddhist architecture isn't just for vibes.
Oh, yeah.
This entire dungeon is inspired by the story of the spider's thread. In this tale, Buddha once
yes.
looked into a pond, and through its lilies and algae could see hell far below full of tortured souls. Buddha took pity on one of the souls, a gentle man who had once gone out of his way to avoid stepping on a spider, and decided to help him out, lowering a spider's thread into hell for him to climb up.
Cantata.
Unfortunately, all of the other souls swarm the thread and climb after this man, who in fear that the thread would snap, yells at them to get off of his thread. This is ironically what snaps the thread, because by only caring for his own salvation, the man proved he was not ready for enlightenment. Within this dungeon, we enact basically the same scenario, finding hell beneath a pond, and upon
Blessed
grabbing
Owl.
the idol we need to proceed, racing up a single thread to salvation with 100 zombies in tow. Maybe it's a good thing that Link is mute, he probably would tell him the GTFO too. So yeah, this entire dungeon is a
probably would too.
metaphor. As you lower the water, you cleanse your spirit, allowing yourself to rise to enlightenment above while washing all of the bad down to the netherworld. And up there, you fight the somewhat Buddha-looking Koloktos, who incidentally is one of the best bosses in the game, if not the best. Doesn't really have anything to do with being a water level, but I'll still give credit where credit is due. That's actually what's keeping the Ancient Cistern at number 7. Major sections of this water level have nothing to do with water. But dude, what a fun, beautiful, and insightful dungeon. That spider's thread section really wakes you up from the relaxed state that the upper floors lull you into.
Oh, God.
And once you're back up there, you appreciate the serene atmosphere even more. So, yeah, I'll gladly give the Ancient Cistern a spot for at least using water mechanics to enhance a narrative concept. Skyward Sword is a divisive title among Zelda fans, but it's moments of brilliance like this that make it, at least to me, a worthy part of the legend.
Yeah, fair enough. Those look pretty beautiful, I'll have to say. Number 6?
I do realize that some of my top water levels are actually a collection of multiple levels, and I think this is fair to do in the case of platformers, where a singular level might be designed to last 3 to 5 minutes tops, compared to a Zelda dungeon that takes half an hour to complete. Many platformers will separate its worlds into different stages, with 4 to 6 stages based around a consecutive theme, and a lot of times water is one of those themes. Of such platformers, one of my favorite examples is Waterland from Kirby's Epic Yarn. Even the Star Warrior has had trouble with these levels in the past. Kirby's trademark inhale ability doesn't really work underwater, barring that one example, nor do most copy abilities other than sword or hammer. So you're stuck with a paltry snorkel attack, and if you take damage, you risk losing a copy ability with no way to reclaim it. But Epic Yarn has no need for copy abilities, whatever the 3DS re-release might say. Kirby gets a little lasso instead to pull apart fabric fiends, and like in Ristar, this ability is perfectly functional while swimming, during which Kirby takes on a little submarine form. Aw, I love it! Look at the little baby bat this feet! Not all these levels are 5 stars, mind you. Secret Island is a bit too labyrinthian for my taste, but that's the funny thing. The best parts of Waterland are the parts that are in the water, which, as we've discussed, is usually not the case for platformers. This is partly due to Epic Yarn's sense of aesthetic, cleverly working household materials into the level's themes. Here, the surface of the water is portrayed by a simple blue strand, which clearly separates air and sea in sections where the waves get kinda crazy. Like this section here in Splash Beach. Yeah, not exactly how water works, but it is super fun to bounce in and out of the submarine mode to jump to higher areas. And speaking of the submarine mode, I actually want to take this opportunity to explain how I view different variations of swimming controls in video games. Yeah, I know, I probably should have done this earlier, but bear with me. To me, there are 3 different styles: drop style, drift style, and dart style. Drop style is basically underwater platforming, a la Mega Man or Sonic. Drift style is usually where you use the jump button to increase your underwater elevation while slowly sinking, like a slow platformer with infinite jumps. Think Donkey Kong Country, or Super Mario Odyssey for a 3D example. Finally, dart style is where you have omnidirectional control of where you can propel yourself forward underwater, usually with a burst of speed. Think the aforementioned Ristar, or Zoralink from Majora's Mask. Kirby's default submarine utilizes a slow form of dart style, making for a smooth way to navigate the waters along with a decent way to defend yourself. But occasionally, you'll find this awesome dolphin transformation where that same dart style control scheme is fully realized, cutting through the waves like Michael Phelps. Now, if you made me narrow Waterland down to just one stage, I'd pick Deep Dive Deep, which, aside from featuring the dolphin in all of its acrobatic glory, has tight turns and obstacles that really challenge you if you're going for the gold medal. Electric eels filling the passageways, underwater magma flows that you can tie up like a sachet, and the big anglerfish chasing you while you scramble to clear the way and collect as many beads as you can. It's a rush all around. It's not too hard for casual players, but exhilarating for completionists like me. Close behind is Fossil Reef, which by no coincidence also uses the dolphin and has you jumping through inexplicable floating spheres of water to reach higher areas. Like the rest of Epic Yarn, the map screen effects that unlock different stages are adorable. Shout out to the big fish who gets a kiss from his girlfriend. And topping it all off is Kappa Mari, who I always want to call Kappa Mikey for some reason. This is a cute multi-stage boss that takes a lot of concentration to get a top score, and again, the visual design. It looks like a squid, but then you unravel his turban and now he's an octopus taking shelter in these little pots until you can yeet him around the room. And I won't praise the piano-heavy soundtrack again, but this is Kirby's Epic Yarn. It's blasé at this point. This whole game feels like a comfy pair of pants, and even getting those pants wet doesn't ruin the fun. Actually, strike that. Bad simile. Very bad simile.
Hey! Hey! Number 5?
I want to talk for a minute about my old friend Mega Man. The Blue Bombers games didn't quite make the list, though honorable mention to Acid Man stage, but they were pioneers of the aforementioned drop style of water physics. Mega Man's a robot, so he doesn't have to hold his breath, thank God.
So
and his
if it ain't
circuitry is
Mega Man,
waterproof
where are we
because
going?
apparently Dr. Light mastered that iPhone case technology. Drop style can be a very safe way to do water levels since you don't have to change much about the gameplay at all, really. But in Mega Man's case, rather than slowing you down like Samus before the gravity suit, there's a buoyancy factor. You can actually jump a little higher and you fall a little slower. Theoretically, this makes platforming easier, but these classic stages like to maintain difficulty by lining the ceiling with insta-death spikes. Your mileage may vary. I bring this up because these principles of movement were incorporated into another retro-inspired game, Shovel Knight. Yacht Club did an amazing job learning from Mega Man and other 8-bit games, taking the best of their level design while avoiding the potential annoyances. Propeller Knight's stage manages to make a vertical shaft level fun, same with Polar Knight's ice physics, and more to the point, Treasure Knight's aquatic stage, the Iron Whale. And through its design, the Iron Whale is able to tell a story about its boss and how you defeat it. With his amassed wealth and sunken treasures, Treasure Knight is the financial manager of the Order of No Quarter. In exchange, the sorceress has given him boundless dominion to plunder the seas in his sizable submersible. As Shovel Knight, you find a dock to plunge into the cold depths before intercepting the sub and sneaking on board during one of its collection dives. As such, the level has this U-shape to it that I really like, communicating that you're diving to the ocean floor, getting beneath the iron whale, then ascending to breach its hull so you can confront the atrocious accountant. There's an actual logic to this layout that you don't really see in a lot of older games. Control-wise, it's reminiscent of those Mega Man stages. Shovel Knight sinks due to his plate mail, and he doesn't have to hold his breath because, I don't know, maybe he has an oxygen tank in there or something? With movement mostly unaffected, this level instead decorates itself with fun and memorable hazards, from tentacles that you can bounce off of to these snails that you can ricochet off the walls to destroy blocks of sand. At the bottom point, you'll encounter a little blue chest, which in any other level means a new trinket to work into your moveset, but here instead it turns out to be a lure of a giant freaking anglerfish. That's 2 giant angler chase scenes in a row, this one playing out more like the classic dragon boss from Mega Man 2, but the water physics here make hopping from platform to platform a bit less dire. Defeating the fish will net you the throwing anchors, which are basically the axes from Castlevania, and this is very smart because they're immediately useful in the now upward climb towards a sea vessel. The challenge ramps up within the machinery of the Iron Whale itself, which has anchors of its own that act as both platforms and obstacles. You navigate the mechanical marvel and finally face off against Treasure Knight himself, and the man is a mix of Big Daddy from Bioshock and Nautilus from League of Legends, firing a chain link anchor and sending out waves of coins that would be impossible to jump over if it weren't for the underwater physics. Great level design overall, but that's just a fourth of the story, as Shovel Knight eventually proves to have 4 major campaigns, each with a different playable character, and that means 4 visits to the Iron Whale and 4 showdowns with Nautilus Daddy. The version Plague Knight visits is identical to Shovel Knight's, that being the case with all of Plague Knight's levels, but the Alchemist's floaty jumps and explosive attacks make the traversal feel completely different. As for Spectre Knight, his levels were all completely revamped, and this makes for the best version of the Iron Whale in my opinion. By merit that Spectre Knight has the coolest moveset. The squid tentacles that blocked Shovel Knight's path are now easy targets for Spectre, letting him slash through the waves like a swordfish in satisfying air combos. Sea combos? Finally, there's King Knight, whose campaign focuses on a greater quantity of smaller levels rather than 8 big ones. As such, King Knight plays through multiple underwater courses, and it's amazing that after all this time, Yacht Club is still finding new ways to arrange these same simple mechanics. Then eventually you land on one of these anchor platforms, and surprise, it's Treasure Knight looking to kick your ass. I suppose it makes sense that a company called Yacht Club would be comfortable on the water, but it really astounds me how effortlessly fun this level seems. Like, why did people hate water levels again? I guess when you're this good at level design, you can make any location interesting.
Yeah, sounds
even the
right.
same one 4 times.
That's fun. Alright, number 4. Managed to defeat that treasure hunting knight.
2 years prior to the original Mega Man, Super Mario Bros. Hit store shelves, not only writing the rulebook for side-scrolling platforms, but also having some of the first water levels to be totally distinct from on-land gameplay. Mario had actual swim controls, primitive but effective, and because his main form of attack required the full force of gravity, he was rather helpless underwater unless he got a Fire Flower. I don't think anyone would call these levels a highlight of Super Mario Bros. 1, but since then, it's been established that if Mario's gonna save the princess, he's probably gonna have to swim at some point. The 2D games certainly improved things with more interesting level design and power-ups like the frog suit, and the 3D games used water to create some of the most iconic worlds. Jolly Roger Bay is admittedly slow, but I love the vibe it gives off, at least until that blasted eel gave me a case of mood whiplash. Sunshine is like one big beach level, though the levels devoted to underwater transport again are hardly highlights. Like, seriously, Nintendo, you scared me half to death with the eels in the last game, and now you want me to clean one's teeth? I'd say Super Mario Galaxy was the first game to make water levels not only captivating from an aesthetic standpoint, but a legitimate joy to play. You've got the laid-back Beach Bowl Galaxy with a very chill atmosphere, Cosmic Cove Galaxy was my original favorite for how freezing the water changes your approach to the level, and Buoy Base Galaxy manages to be a spectacle despite how short it is. But then we spring forward 7 years,
Odyssey.
And after a thrilling interstellar adventure, I think I need a vacation.
Oh, Seaside Kingdom. Yo, that's a good one. It just went with the briefs. Fitting.
Super Super Mario Odyssey has since supplanted Galaxy as my favorite game in the series, and for good reason. Not only does Mario control better than ever in a 3D setting, the overall level design takes full advantage of Mario's new jump and dive tricks while also presenting some of the most thematically charming worlds I've ever seen. In the case of Seaside Kingdom, we have a gorgeous tropical getaway where the water is carbonated, don't ask me how that works, and the oceanic theme is felt in every facet of this lovely kingdom. I should note, however, that while Mario's land controls are the best they've ever been in the series, the same can't be said for his swim controls. In previous games, Mario utilized a slow but very functional form of dart-style swimming, propelling himself forward in any direction he wanted. And in Galaxy, this was made even better with the Koopa Shell. In Odyssey, though, they bafflingly reverted back to drift-style controls similar to the 2D games. Why would they do that? Why would I pick that? Well, the answer is our little friend Cappy, which allows Mario to possess anything that he can slap a hat on, greatly expanding his moveset to tackle many of the game's unique challenges. So what at first seems like limited underwater traversal is actually greatly expanded, with multiple options for scouring these sparkling seas. First, you got the classic Cheep Cheep, changing Mario's drift-style swim controls back into dart-style, and it's better than ever. Players will have already gotten used to this mode of transport in the game's earlier Lake Kingdom, but now you can use the speedy fish to cut through the water or explore the lovely crevices of the reef for purple doubloons.
Yeah, no need to worry about the health.
Alternatively, you can boomerang Cappy to grab these rocket flowers, allowing Mario to skip like a stone to the next sand barge. Last but certainly not least is one of my favorite captures in the game, the Gushins. This hydrokinetic creature surrounds itself in a sphere of seawater and uses its hydraulic power to jet around the sky. As long as you have water, you can stay airborne, and this makes for some of the coolest flight challenges for Power Moons. And all this culminates in a high-octane boss battle against Mollusk Lunser, frantically firing away in every direction to try and stop the sinister cephalopod in his tracks. Flood, drink your heart out. So why is Mario's swimming nerfed? Well, to dissuade you from using it. You have superior options now for traveling on the water, below the water, and above the water. If you're dog paddling as Mario, you're just doing it wrong. And all of this is backed by the charming tropical vista based on the French Riviera. If landing your Gushin shots is getting too frustrating, there's plenty more relaxing pastimes at the beach. You got pirate Goombas to build towers with, there's a dog that likes to play hat frisbee, an admittedly tedious but strangely addictive volleyball tournament with the kingdom's escargot inhabitants, and oh my god, they took Dory the Plesiosaurus from Mario 64 and made her a roaming shop. That is adorable. There's a little something for everyone here, and all of it is done to the quality we expect out of this series. Mario may have a sordid history with water levels, but this La Croix Lagoon is a 5-star stop on Mario's best journey yet.
Yeah, let's be real. I had a lot of fun with that one. Like, when I played it, it was like, woo! Like, the amount of options you can do, like, whether on the water, below the water. I mean, you gotta admit, it's fun. Like, Odyssey just made it all fun. And you're not limited to just Mario. You could, swim as Cheep Cheep, the Gushers, whatever. It's, like I said, not limited Mario. So, gotta thank Cappy for that. So, makes sense. What do you guys think? Fan of the Seaside Kingdom? Let me know. Anyway, final 3, here we go.
Time for another water level history lesson. This time about Donkey Kong Country. I know Mr. Kong's legacy is all over the place, but anytime Country is added to the title, you know you're in for a great platformer, barring some of the handheld ports anyway. Donkey Kong Country 1 featured 4 water levels, and while they weren't exactly great since DK and Diddy themselves had no way to fight back against the sinister sharks, Unguard the Swordfish was always hidden nearby to make things significantly easier. Honestly though, I think what sold these levels was aquatic ambience. Beautiful track. Things get more complex in Donkey Kong Country 2, where Rare figured out how to make levels where you hop in and out of the water. It makes for some neat challenges, backed by another amazing song, Lockjaw's Saga. I guess it goes without saying that anything composed by David Wise is gonna slap. Donkey Kong Country 3 goes even further with level gimmicks, such as water that reverses your controls, or escorting a hungry barracuda that'll chomp on you if you can't find food for it fast enough. With water levels being evenly dispersed throughout all 3 adventures, it surprised me that Donkey Kong Country Returns had no swimming at all. There was a beach-themed world, certainly, but here
so
water
tropical
was
freeze
treated
then?
as instant-death. Did you forget how to swim, DK? I was
Probably.
tempted to rank Stormy's Shore for this list. It starts with a giant octopus wrecking a ship in the background, and the rest of the level is you maneuvering around his reaching arms as you race to the finish. But like I said at the beginning, it's not a water level to me if you don't get your feet wet.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there's Tropical Freeze, the latest in the DKC series, which returns the Kong clans to the sunken depths. It is unfortunate that we didn't see On Guard make his return here, but with this game's shift from drift to dart-style swimming controls, these levels surpass the leisurely swims of the original series, even more so when Diddy or Dixie are on your back adding some thrust. Tropical Freeze also sports a tropical set of levels, and like with Epic Yarn, I'm tempted to place all of them here in a package. But there's one that I think combines all of the best points from all of the levels I've mentioned already. Picture this. You start in the remains of a snow-mad longboat before diving into the coral-crusted catacombs below. And immediately your ears are met with a remix of aquatic ambience mixed with Lockjaw Saga.
You son of a bitch.
I'm in.
The first leg of this stage features mines that explode after a moment when you get too close, and directional currents that can either aid or endanger you from these explosions, both starting with simple layouts to teach you the mechanic, followed by more complex arrangements like any good video game obstacle should. It's easy enough to avoid if you take your time, but you'll probably be rushing because for the first time, Donkey Kong has an air meter. You didn't play the old games, did you, Retro? Gorillas can breathe underwater, everybody knows that. Ah well, it does add a good bit of urgency, forcing you to collect these air bubbles along the way. And if you're in a rush getting to the secluded cannon barrel in the big empty room, you might be blindsided to see that goddamn octopus from the last game. Yeah, more like Donkey Kong Kraken returns. And the rest of the level becomes this frantic float to the surface, avoiding mines and timing cannon blasts while the rising tide of ink chases you. And the malicious mollusk's eyes glare at you from the background. What a great callback and a great reveal. At least it would have been. Yeah, my biggest problem with this level, I rate 8, is that I wish it had a different name. The level seems to want Squidicus to be a surprise, and yes, that's actually his name, I looked it up. But that hint in the title and the tentacles circling around you in the world map kinda spoiled.
Much of a
Oh
much of a
well,
surprise.
even if this sprint with sushi wasn't as raw as it could have been, this is still an excellently paced level that builds tension from beginning to end. Capped off with you finally blasting the cephalopod to Kingdom Come with those same mines you've been avoiding. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and it tastes like takoyaki.
Takoyaki. Hey! Hey, how'd you done? How'd be done?
Rejoice,
Number 2?
everyone. We finally made one of these remastered countdowns without making the same choice for number 1.
Really? Oh! Hi, Sonic! So, colors? Yep, colors. So this was the original number 1?
Now don't take this demotion to second place as a slight against Aquarium Park from Sonic Colors. It completely deserved the win it got last time, and I stand by every compliment I gave it 10 years ago. But I don't stand by that video's sound quality, so let's reiterate some of those points with a much cleaner mic.
I need to update my audio equipment. I've updated my audio equipment.
The Sonic series is
updated my
infamous
audio
for
equipment.
irritating water levels. Sonic 1 had Labyrinth Zone, Sonic Adventure 2 had Aquatic Mine, and even the decent ones like Chemical Plant and Hydro
doing that
City were
tomorrow?
a lot of 90s kids' first experiences with abject terror. After Sonic Adventure 2, Sega threw their hands up and just stopped putting underwater sections in Sonic games. But once Unleashed pioneered the boost era of Sonic, it was finally time for the Hedgehog to dip his toes back in. Maybe part of Aquarium Park's reputation comes from just how surprised we were to see a good water level from the Blue Blur. But that also undersells how good this level actually is.
I mean,
For one thing,
pagodas here.
Sonic could never swim before. So Color starts with the question, why not? We gave him a double jump, so from now on, the double jump works infinitely underwater, and instantly a massive weight is lifted off our chests. Sonic still has to
not
hold
sure
his
Sonic
breath,
would
and he
agree
still
on
moves
that.
slower by default, but being able to hop to the surface at any time makes that life easier to manage, and now you're more able to explore these detailed environments. And I think that's the key word here. Explore. In a lot of Aquarium Park's 6 acts, you don't even have to go in the water. If you maintain your boost gauge, you can run right across the surface like a Jesus Christ lizard. So I guess you could say that going underwater is a punishment for falling, like in the Genesis games where the upper paths were usually faster or had more lives and rings if you could execute the level properly. But then there's the Red Rings, a collectible introduced in Sonic Colors that incentivizes getting to know the levels and their multiple paths thoroughly, many of which here are hidden beneath the surface. I compare them to the Big Rings or the Missing Chow from the advanced games where players are encouraged to ignore speed entirely and just comb the level for those hidden secrets. It's your choice. Race to the finish, or go out of your way for those collectibles. Or, if you want a perfect S rank, learn to do both. Personally, I think Sonic Colors executes it best, encouraging expert skill and forethought without it getting too irritating, and Aquarium Park has some of the best challenges for it. Following that, this level makes great use of the Wisp powers, which to Sonic Colors' credit is one of the best gimmicks in the series for how it enhances and synergizes with Sonic's gameplay. Getting the Ghost ability lets you phase into different underwater chambers. Rocket shows off the sheer verticality of these levels, and Drill, which was used in previous levels to burrow through the ground, now works as a torpedo. This level accomplished something I thought impossible, making levels where I actually want Sonic to go in the water. And I also gotta give it up to the down there though. In the story, Aquarium Park is one of a half-dozen planets snatched up by Eggman as part of his interstellar amusement park. In this case, an entirely aqueous planet is encased in a giant glass globe, and decorated with a kind of Japanese theme. You have all these pagodas in the background, and even Eggman's foot soldiers are dressed as Edo's samurai. It's possible that this is based on the Ryugu-jo, or Dragon Palace Temple from a Japanese fairy tale where a fisherman, after saving a sea turtle, was led to an underwater utopia where he met the dragon god and even had a chance to marry a princess. It's kind of Japan's version of the Atlantis myth. In fact, a giant pyramid-like structure was found off the coast of the Ryukyu Islands in 1987 that some think might have been the inspiration for this fable.
How much Sega was actually drawing from this myth, I couldn't tell you, but in any case...
The red pathways and pagodas contrast beautifully with the water. This is enhanced by the amazingly catchy music and the occasional PA announcement by Eggman in the background.
The mighty ocean, cradle of life, trivialized for your amusement at Eggman's incredible interstellar amusement park.
Man, there's a reason that they kept Michael Pollock as Eggman. If I want to sell someone on Sonic Colors, Aquarium Park is usually what I show them. It's cool, it's fast, and easily one of the best in the business. But as I said before, that first place medal was stolen by one last entry.
This should be interesting. So, what's still the spot? Let's find out.
While Aquarium Park didn't return as my number one, I still think I made the right call 10 years ago, on the grounds that it was 2012, and the best water level in gaming hadn't actually been made yet. That honor goes to
Rayman.
2013's Rayman Legends. 20,000 Lums Under the Sea.
Huh? Ooh.
Man, the first half of the 2010s was a great period for 2D platformers, between the Donkey Kong resurgence and the brief return of Rayman. The Limitless Wonder brought us two games, Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends, both of which control like a dream and are brimming with personality. Like with Sonic Colors, the water-themed levels in Legends are just a great example of the brilliant level design present in the entire game. And if you didn't know, Lums are the main collectible in Rayman, thus the name. I'm not exactly sure how many are scattered across this world, but if it turned out to be exactly 20,000, I'd be pretty impressed. Like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Rayman and Company's swim controls in this game are based on forward darting movement. You have a slower swim speed for careful maneuverability and a longer stroke that threads you through the surf like a needle. Both speeds come in handy because not only are there sections where you want to move fast, the underwater base is about more than swimming. It's about stealth. That's gotta raise some red flags, right? Stealth can be a dangerous mechanic for any game not based solely around it, and placing that pressure underwater sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
but the devs at Ubisoft Montpellier know how to make a platformer and break down stealth into a self-explanatory platforming concept. For example, you have these sentries with those searchlights, right? Well, if your goal is not to be seen, then their vision is just another obstacle, no different than a spike trap or a plume of lava. Treating it any differently
what happens if they get spotted?
So if you get seen, the light will turn red and in half a second you'll get hit by a laser. Damage.
Oof.
Pretty much the same punishment as any other hazard, with the benefit that this is now a cool spy mission, with Rayman diving into the sea factory to a tune suspiciously similar to the James Bond theme. You start at the mysterious inflatable island, a hilarious set piece by the way, and follow the tether's chain to the lab below, dodging behind objects that block the searchlights. These patterns of searchlights get more and more complex, and more satisfying to avoid. I especially like these robotic sea snakes that whiz into the sentry's path. It's worth noting that this is as much of a factory world as it is a water world, some levels only featuring water in the background. But I guess that makes it kind of like Earthworm Jim's Down the Tubes, which I had on the previous version of this list, only this game, again, has better swimming controls when it finally gets down to it. I really like this pool with the jellyfish, which reminds me of the house party SpongeBob threw. I love how the crowd oohs and ahs when you uncover a secret alcove. I love the name Mansion of the Deep, and I love the sense that you're hurting the bad guy's operation. By the penultimate level, Elevator Assault, there's torrents of seawater leaking into the lab behind you, and these goblin guys are lining up to stop you once and for all. And dude, this chase with the sea dragon! Even with a perfect run, it feels like you're just barely making it. It gets me thinking that why even bother with boss battles when the platforming is this good? Just make the boss stages really intense platforming challenges like this. And okay, there is a traditional boss fight with the mecha version right after that, but that's pretty good too. The icing on the cake is a rhythmic runner level called Glue Glue, and all of the rhythm levels in this game are great, this one being set to a cover of Woohoo by the 5678s. And it's so fast and so smooth, and even with the murky water and hideous eldritch monsters, this game still looks amazing. What else is there to say? It's the most fun I've ever had moving a character through water. Why the hell did they stop making Rayman games? This gives Mario and Sonic a swim for their money. I'm the Green Scorpion, and thank you for joining me on this delightfully damp countdown. Next time, fight!
Ooh, fight. I guess Street Fighter's coming up soon, but there you go. Rayman takes the top spot in the water levels, so deserved, not deserved, let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, like, subscribe for more. See ya.